Moshe, you don't think you should put that one there and that one there?
Perfect. Right.
Good? All right.
You use two streams?
One's mine and one's the lighthouse. One's mine and one's the lighthouse. Michael, he wants to steal the audience, Michael. He's trying to...
Hey, they got a piggyback.
He's trying to...
Can I move this?
Yeah. Take it, move it over. Move it over. Okay, let's go.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just
Okay.
right after.
I have to. You have to remind me to tell you about the company.
Just write it down because I gotta. That's it. One second. I can't get that. It's just right now. I can't speak. Moshe, you ready? Ready, Michael?
Welcome everybody to the Lighthouse Project. I really appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I know it's right before Pesach, but it's an amazing opportunity to hear some amazing words from Gedalia to inspire all of us. So I want to go over tonight's class sponsors. Okay. Anonymous for the shidduch, health, and the peace of mind of Miriam Rina Bat Maka Simcha. And for all the Jewish singles to find their soulmates easily and at the right time.
Amen.
Anonymous, in honor of Daniel Yosef Toiser, may the light of Pesach, may the light of Pesach reveal the truth and grant him a full geula.
Amen.
Amen.
Anonymous, in the honor of Rivka Bat Esther and Sarah Bat Esther, may they merit to find their zivug with clarity and have shalom bayit.
Amen.
The Berman and Dubisky families, in honor of Shaul Baruch ben Bat Yoraizo, Ahuva Bat Sarah, Yosef Zundel ben Ahuva, and the entire Berman Dubinsky family should have a lot of success and hatzlacha.
Amen.
Anonymous, in honor of Binyamin Mordechai ben Adina and Ephraim Zelig ben Yosefa Bluma, to find their zivugim.
Amen.
Anonymous, in gratitude to my father Shmuel ben Moshe and for Tova bat Silvi, may she have clarity.
Amen.
Anonymous, in memory of Abraham ben Rachel Zichrono Lebracha, for the refuah shleima of David ben Reina bat Phoebe, and Mordechai ben Esther, and for my Shalom Bayit and my children's.
Amen.
For the refuah shleima of Menachem Bendel ben Sarah Batya and Devorah Fega bat Reiser should have a complete refuah shleima.
Amen.
Anonymous, for the refuah shleima of Shaul ben Berta, Ariane Mat bat Ayelet, and in memory of Edward Dabi Shaul Zichrono Lebracha, and many blessings to Gedalia, our teacher. Anonymous,
No
in
pressure.
honor of her father's Yurtzeit Abraham ben Asher Zelig Zichrono Lebracha. Anonymous, in honor of Matiyahu ben Eliza for Yeshua and being the Torah path, and the Parnas and Shefa Eliza bat Janet. And finally, anonymous, for the refuah shleima of Sarah bat Pearl, Rivka bat Malka, Miriam bat Sarah, and Yaakov Chaim ben.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, everybody happy Passover. First, tonight we're looking for chametz. Tonight I'm going to show you how to look for chametz in your mind. Rabbi Nachman refers to chametz as something like a negative thought. We know matzah represents a person's state. When he was born, he's in a state of matzah. What happens is, through life, we ended up picking up a lot of chametz on the way. A lot of habits, our egos. We picked up a lot of shmutz on the way. But you yourself, we ourselves, we're really matzah. Our inner essence is really matzah. That's why a matzah is on the ground. What is chametz? Chametz inflates. It's things that we inflated. It's dysfunctional thinking, cognitive distortions. One of the things in rehab that we work on, in part of CBT therapy, it's called cognitive distortions. What are cognitive distortions? They're inaccurate thoughts that are reinforced in a person's mind over and over and over and over and over again. This is the problem. A person focusing on what he doesn't want over and over and over, and then he also adds imagery to, and he adds a picture to it. So what happens? This gets stuck in your subconscious, and it can affect your whole life. It can affect your whole life. Basically what this does, when a person's thinking is not proper and he has dysfunctional beliefs, it's like puts the brake on a car. You can't go anywhere. The brakes are on, it's finished. You know how many people today, they don't want to get married today because they've had trauma from a previous relationship? What happens? It puts the brakes on your life because you keep on thinking about the trauma, how it never worked out, it's never going to work out again, and then you can never move forward. So the truth is today, our thinking today affects tomorrow. So it all starts today. I'm going to give you guys a 7-day diet to do. Believe it or not, you're going to have instructions. This was created by Emmett Fox. Tony Robbins is very big on this. And it's a 7-day mental cleansing. Why is it a good time for Passover? Because anyway, we're getting rid of chametz anyway. It's a good time to get rid of the chametz in our mind. So I said, oh, what a great idea. We can do two at the same time. When I did this diet, maybe 6 years ago, it took me, I relapsed maybe 55 times. But once I got it, wow, what a feeling. You have like a new mind. It's something very, very powerful. And because if you're able to focus on what you want instead of what you don't want, it's an unbelievable feeling. You're like a new person. But once I really understood is that I am a soul. I'm not a thought. That's what people need to understand. You are a soul. We said that today in today's class. We said thoughts are merely electrical impulses in the brain. They are not real. Thoughts arise to the brain due to memories. If somebody grew up in Argentina, they're going to be thinking about soccer all day long. Somebody grew up in Colombia. I grew up in Colombia. All I remember is the cartels. Everybody remembers different things about where it's not you. That's what we need to understand. Thoughts are not me. I am not my thought. I am a soul that uses my thoughts for what I want, or God forbid, for what I don't want. So I am a soul. If I say I am a soul, I'm in a state of matzah, where I can go back to my essence. That's the key. We need to understand that there's hope. The bottom line is there's hope. Why is there hope? Because you can change your thinking. But we have to first find the chametz first. You have to find. What do you do when you go to a therapist? What does the person do when he goes to a therapist? What is he doing? He's finding all the chametz in his life. What does the therapist want to do? He wants you to get back to yourself, who you are. What is recovery today? I'm recovering. The person is recovering from an addiction. Who is he recovering to? To himself. That's the point. I'm doing teshuvah. What am I doing teshuvah for? What does teshuvah mean? What is teshuvah? What am I returning to? To myself. Everything's returning to myself. Because if I'm at my soul state, then I have a mission in my life. I have places to be, people to see, goals to do. But if I have a stolen identity, because I'm just picking up any attachment, any thinking, and whatever I think about, I attach myself to it, then I become that thought. And there goes the story. That's how people come up with stories, unfortunately. So this is where it all begins, is your thinking. It's very, very important. This is exactly what we do in drug rehab, in therapy. We find that the person's infections in their life and why they think that way, and we try to tell them, listen, this is not you. You're just thinking this way because of the way you lived, the trauma you had, but you can change your thinking. You can become a different person. It's very powerful once we get there. So we have to realize, you have to ask yourself, am I confusing a thought with a fact? Am I confusing a thought with a fact? It's a very powerful concept. Is this a fact, what I'm thinking? Is this true? Or is this just a thought? The Yetzer Hara specializes in negative thinking, specifically when you're about to pray, specifically when you're about to get married, when you're about to give the engagement ring. You know what happens? The klipot from the other side want to say, whoa, what are you doing? You getting married? Stay single. Have fun. And then what does he do? He rushes you with negative thinking. So anytime that we're going to go to any kind of holiness, or any kind of things that are good for us, the Yetzer Hara attacks you with negative thinking. That's why Rab Nachman, he tells us this. So what's the war today? The war today is strength. You need to have a lot of strength. And you need to have a lot of control over what you think about. So what happens here, we have to understand that it says when our intellect is used as a tool to solve problems, it's wonderful. But when the intellect becomes the inner critic, then that's a problem. So and the way he says it here, he's saying you have to look at your life as an independent critic. That means, what would you think if you weren't attached to your emotions and all that? If you just observed somebody the way he thought, you would probably say, why would you focus on that? That's not true. Why would you focus on that? That's not true. But what happens is we become so attached. And to the extent that we become attached to our thoughts, that affects our heart and that affects our emotions. Once I have remember, and what is the heart? The seat of the emotions. All my seat of my emotions is in the heart. So if I can control my thinking, I can control my emotions. Remember, it's very, very important. And if you're careful what you say to yourself, what does the Zohar say? The Zohar says everything you think about, it's going to come out of your mouth. You see the pattern here where we have to really attack it. This is not something to do, I'll try, let me try. No, you're going to have to attack your negative thinking and question your thinking. Remember, we need to question our thinking, not question God. Yet people are questioning God, not questioning their thinking. You're questioning the wrong person, questioning the wrong thing. So, don't confuse a thought with a fact. Once a thought, am I ever going to get married? That's a thought. Is it fact? No. I'm 22, 23. Not true. We have to question everything, right? Also, we have to ask yourself, are you jumping to conclusions? A lot of times people jump to conclusions. They jump to conclusions. Oh, he must not call me back. He must mean he doesn't like me. You're jumping to conclusions. You understand? We jump to conclusions too quick, right? And we have to ask ourselves, as a result of what we think, there's poor evidence. He says, what happens, for example, am I asking questions? A lot of people that I speak to, they're asking questions with no answers. Which is like, how can I undo the past? You can't. You have to give it meaning and move forward. But if you're asking yourself, how can I undo the past all day long? How's that going to serve you? How's that going to ever help you? That's Chometz. So we can't get rid of Chometz until asking, and feel this, what am I saying to myself every day? And I have to always realize that I have the option to think about what I want, not what I don't want. Now, it's not easy. This is not an easy exercise. That's why. But if we focus on getting 1% better, by interrupting our thought patterns, then little by little you'll get momentum. It's not to be done overnight because it's impossible to overnight. If you have 60,000 negative thoughts in a day, try to have 50,000 one day instead of 60,000. So what does Rab Nachman say here? He's saying that the great value of thought has now become known to me. Rab Nachman maybe had 12 Torahs on thinking, on thoughts. Okay? He says, for thought is extremely precious. Entire things are made from thinking. And he says here, yet it's more important for you to have wisdom than thoughts. Because wisdom is comprised, is something you build. This is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to create wisdom, not just tell you to think positively. I'm trying to tell you, listen, what are you doing when you have a bad day? What do you do when you go through pain? You need to bittul. Every single class that I have, it's a practical tool. Because what happens is we want to get out of 3 to 4 hour thought patterns where we're dwelling on questions we don't have the answer to. You understand? So he's saying here, wisdom is more valuable. He says the main thing is the truth. A person has to realize that his main job is to develop his intellect, not to have his intellect become his inner critic, which is today's issues. The intellect becomes the inner critic. And Reb Nachman says in lesson 50, he says, thought is in a person's control. As explained elsewhere, he says, even if the mind flies from one area to another area, it's just like a horse. He compares thoughts to a horse. That means, if you ride the horse and you watch where the horse goes, it'll go in the right place. But if you're not careful, you're trying to go to Orlando, the horse is in Key West. That means you fail to be mindful of where you're thinking about. And our job is literally saying here, the minute the horse goes one way, bring it back. Bring it back. This is what our job is. Specifically in the beginning, we have to constantly bring our thoughts back to order and interrupt thought patterns. This is the most important thing. Because remember, Rav Nachman saying here that our entire spiritual rectification is based on our thoughts. The entire rectification. If I think Hashem doesn't love me, what am I going to do? I'm going to go away from Hashem. If I think Hashem loves me, what am I going to do? I'm going to approach Hashem. If I think life is a challenge, what am I going to say? Bring it on. If I think life is a threat, what am I going to say? Oh my God, get away! Let me run away. I have too much anxiety. You understand? Our beliefs and lead to our thinking. Your core belief is, what is your core belief on life? What do you think about life? Life is a challenge. Then what do you say? When you have a challenge, what do you say? Bring it on. If you think life is a threat, what do you say? Oh my God, what am I going to do? And you panic. So your beliefs lead to your thoughts, right? Your thoughts lead to your speech, as the Zohar says. Whatever you think about, you're going to say. What do I do with the past? Absolutely nothing but move on. Release the brakes and move on with your life. That's the only thing to do with the past. Not think about the past, not dwell on the past. Tony Robbins, I think, has a great line. He says you have to go through life and pretend you have a rearview mirror. And occasionally reflect on the past. Don't stare at the rearview mirror your whole life. You're going to crash. It's just to occasionally look. Right? Am I in the right lane? Am I in the wrong lane? You're not supposed to stare at the rearview mirror your whole life and think you're not going to crash. Of course you're going to crash. So the key to the past is release the brakes. Give it meaning, understand what we need to do with the past, and stop thinking about the past. I have so many people, they're held their whole lives due to the past. Our job is to embrace Emunah, give it meaning. If the past is painful, either we can avoid it, we can numb it, or we can give it meaning and move on. There's nothing else to do. If it's a failed relationship, it's failed at work. Remember, our failures are not for us to have breaks on our lives. Our failures are so we can learn what we did wrong and what we need to fix. It's not for you to put a break on. A guy getting a divorce, it's not for him to put a break on his life and say, you know what, I had enough, I tried the Jewish girls, and now I'm going to have fun. That's not the purpose of trauma. The purpose of trauma is to learn a lesson, become humble, and move on, and open up a new door in your life. You understand where we go? But if we take the wrong step, if we have a failure in business, what happens? We put the brakes on, we lose our emunah, and then we say, Hashem forgot about me. And then my whole life can just take a bad U-turn to La La Land. It's not so funny. I wish it was funny, but this is what's going on today. So our job is release the brakes. Passover is the time to be free. Release the brakes and move on. Anything that's in the past is a break. Is a break we're putting on. And this is okay, again, breaks are to use occasionally. It's not to be permanent. Let's remember that. It's very, very important. So I'm not going to say here that our job is to constantly, the best way to guard your thoughts is right away from where they start. That means I got to catch them right away. Every single time I have a class, after I finish, the same Yetzer Hara tells me, I'll say, now you have nothing to say. Every time I get the same stupid thought, okay, what are you going to talk about? There's nothing else to talk about. You've said everything in the world. You have already 450, 80 classes. What can you say now? So I brush it off. In the beginning, I'm like, oh my God, maybe I have nothing to say. I started believing the thinking. And then I said, what am I going to talk about? And I started getting anxiety about what am I going to talk about. I said, what am I doing? What am I doing dwelling on this garbage for? It's exhausting me. So then I said, okay, I have nothing to talk about. That's okay. So I have nothing to talk about. And then next thing you know, you wake up in the morning with an idea. We just can't give our thoughts any energy. That's what the Yetzer Hara wants to do, is keep our energy away. Keep our energy. So again, we don't want, number one thing is, we don't want to ask questions that have no answers. Like, what am I going to do? What do I do with my past? How can I get married now at 38? How can this happen? This question has no answer to it. And it shouldn't be coming out of a person's mouth. Because what are you going to think when a person asks that kind of question? How does it feel? It feels terrible. So that's what we want to break out of these patterns. Why is life so unfair? A lot of people ask me. Why is life so unfair? The way you're looking at it is unfair. You understand? These are things we have to be careful. Why is business so hard? Again, that's Chometz. That's Chometz. That's what we cannot allow in our mind. Any kind of negativity, basically what it does, it clogs up our mind. Rav Nachman compares this, he's saying, to the amount of negative thinking that a person has, what happens, unfortunately? It clogs up his mind. It says, in lesson 35, the crucial point that one must remember very well, your neshama, what happens, your neshama is there to help with your intellect to build yourself. He's saying that unfortunately, when the amount used to entertain negative thoughts is the amount of the mind that's denied and drained away of its full intelligence. That means if the mind already has a story, there's no way for a new good thought to come into. Does that make sense? There's no room. It's occupied already with a negative belief about life. So that's what we try to do, is we try to break these patterns. We don't want to get stuck in that. And that's why he's saying here, even the Baal Shem Tov says here, something very beautiful. He says, when a person thinks negative, he thinks about Chometz, he thinks about something negative, he's saying a person constricts himself to that specific situation. So unless I make a shift and break that pattern, that's me. That means I am where my mind is at all times. So you have to make sure your mind is where you want it to be. And we know this for a fact. Even when a person looks positive of somebody, when a person focuses on somebody, sends good energy to somebody, they feel it. When a person sends a bad energy, they also feel it. Even with one spouse. That's why Rav Nachman, he had a famous Torah called a Zamra. What does a Zamra mean? It says focus on the good of everybody. You know what? When you focus on somebody's good, they feel like you're sending them good vibes. If you focus on the negative, what do? They feel you're giving them a negative eye. What is this whole thing about evil eye today? Oh my God, that girl gave me an evil eye. How do you know she gave you an evil eye? You understand? Again, especially if you're Moroccan, you're going to jump the gun. Look at the girl, she's looking at me. You understand? These are negative thoughts. So we have to realize that we are souls. I am a soul. I am here to do a mission in my life. The answers to all my life are in my heart. I can't afford to have my mind clogged by negative thinking or negative distortions. You understand? That's very, very important. So again, we have to also, what are some other things? Is basically when a person is always blaming himself, blaming, should, etc. Sometimes we catastrophize things. Am I overestimating the chances of a disaster? Oh my God, it's not going to work out. Negative thoughts. These are all negative thoughts. Now, why is it so difficult to do this? Is again, it's all a pattern of what we were thinking about. So we need to change and we need to interrupt absolutely everything. So let's talk about a little bit about some of these negative thoughts. Okay? For example, if a person is saying they're always like that, right? Like we could say Moroccans are always moody. That's not true. Sometimes they go to sleep. So they're not always moody, right? When they're up, they're moody, but when they go to sleep, they're not moody. But that's always saying Moroccans are moody. It's not true. Sometimes they're not moody. They sleep also, okay? So anytime we use the word always, it's a negative thought, because we're generalizing. Focusing on the negative in the situation. Is the date going to work out? I had a girl the other day. She called me. Oh my God, the date went so good. I'm afraid it's not going to work out. Why would it not work out? That means we don't believe in Hashem's mercy. That's another problem. Not believing in Hashem's mercy. What do you think Hashem is here to do? To love you, or to go out to get? He's out to get you. You have to believe that Hashem has mercy. Especially this month is a month of Yud Kei Vav Kei. You have to believe that this month there's mercy in the air. That Hashem has so much mercy that he's out to give me, not to take from me. So again, that's a negative thought. Fortune telling. Another time, this is another type of negative thought. Fortune telling. That means predicting the future. Fortune telling. How do you know? How do you know what's going to happen tomorrow? This is another type. Mind reading. Look what that girl said to me. Look what he's saying to me. Again, not true. These are all types of chometz that we fall in a trap. Specifically, the 7-day mental diet. You have to do this in your house, in your seder, with your family members. So remember, sometimes we already have memories of past seders with our family members. So we're gonna have to really work on changing. That means I'm a new person. I'm on a diet. Tell everybody, I'm on a mental diet. I'm on a mental diet. First, we're going to talk about some of the chometzos, and then we're going to talk about the instructions of the diet. Labeling is a problem. Anytime you blame people, this guy caused me to do this. He took 10 years off my life. These are all. Nobody can touch you in heaven unless it's declared. Nothing can be blamed. It's nobody's fault but what you focus on. So what's the diet? What's this diet about? What are the rules of the diet? For 7 days, we must not allow ourselves to dwell on a negative thought. I know people say, I can't even deal with it for 7 minutes. I can't even do 7 minutes without a negative. 7 days? So we're going to have to, because remember, all of our memories are back. Whatever I think about, if I dwell on that, then it goes into my subconscious. So what we want to do is we want to interrupt the thinking pattern so it doesn't dwell into our subconscious. This is not easy. Like I said, I relapsed 50 times, but I did it for 1 week straight. And then from there, things became so much clearer. I had so much energy. Remember, we have to understand, what exhausts us today is our thinking. Why is the guy exhausted? It's because he's thinking. It's not because he's moving. It's he's thinking. The body's not moving. The mind is moving all day long. So we have to close the mind by questioning it. So, 7 days you can't dwell on any negative thoughts. On any negative thought. You're going to get negative thoughts, but your job is to not believe them or question them. That means before it comes into you, is this something I want or not? I don't want this. Get it out of your head. If you work on getting this, I fight this all the time, and thank God I get this. Sometimes I get a rash of negativity. Oh my God, what's going to happen with this? And again, you have to exit your mind and enter the moment. That means, what is anxiety? You're thinking too much about the future. Why is a person depressed? He's thinking too much about the past. The key is presence. Presence is number one. How do I get present? Exit my mind and enter the moment. That's the key. I got to exit my mind and enter the moment. Then you're present. We can't if I'm thinking about I can't be focused. I can't be here. Imagine you're having a conversation with somebody and the guy's going like this. He's thinking about it's rude. You understand? So when we get to a habit, we're not present. It's very, very important. It says, whenever a negative thought comes into you, what do you have to do? You have to let it go. Let it go. Okay, this came into my head. Is it true? Yes or no? No? Let it go. That means you have to observe. Observe things, not attach. Attach means, oh my God, I'm attaching to this thought. No, observe. That means I observe, like a cloud. You see a rainy cloud? See, the difference between having a waterfall, look at the beautiful waterfall. Let me go and drench myself in the waterfall. I can observe the waterfall, but I'm not going to go and sit underneath the waterfall and get wet. That's the difference between observing a thought and attaching to a thought. And that's an option. That's an option. So, any kind of negative thought, we have to let it go. Again, and he's saying here, if you find that you've accepted this negative thought and you allow to think about this for a period of time, even a minute, you have to start all over again. So people can't do the 40-day challenge. Imagine this. But what you're doing is, Rav Nachman's saying, it's a big mitzvah. Because every time you go from a negative thought to a positive thought, you know what Rav Nachman says? It's like you recreated the world. He's saying that. You recreated the world. Okay? So we have to constantly do this until we are clean. Again, I relapsed 55 times. Don't get upset at yourself if you catch it. Just, I caught it, I got to start all over. You're probably going to do this in Rosh Hashanah still. But at least start. You need someone. People can't tell me it's too difficult, I can't take it, I have too much stress. You got to start somewhere. I'm 150 pounds overweight. It's too much. I can't get on a treadmill. I can't do this. I can't keep a diet. Well, where do you start? You have the energy of Passover to get out of slavery. But two things are required to get out of slavery. Two things. How do you get out of slavery? Emunah. You have to believe that you can do this. And the second thing is you have to want it. Desire. Not just faith. I need to want. I want to get God. I want to get out of slavery. And Rav Nachman says part of the artikun to get out of this negative thinking is you have to pray for it. Please, Hashem, let me be able to catch my negative thoughts. I want to dwell on positivity. I want my mind to focus on, I want to use my mind to enhance my soul, not to become the inner critic and destroy my mind. You know how many times girls all day long, I'm not pretty enough. That's why the guy didn't like me. He didn't answer for because I'm not pretty enough. And then here comes the movie. And then you dwell on this for 3 hours. And then what happens? You go on the next date, you have the same thought. And then the next date you have the same thought. But people sense that negative energy. People sense fear on people. So what happens? They're afraid to commit. They're saying, I don't want to, it's too much problems. So this is what we need to see. That's why a Zamra is so important to focus on our good. That's the number one thing, which is self-esteem. Focus on our good points, not on our negative points. And remember, we have to understand something. I can't control if somebody else is toxic in my life. That's the way that person feels about himself. I can't change that. If this person wakes up in the bad side of the bed today and he starts yelling at me, it has nothing to do with me. That's the way he feels about himself. But the Yetzer Hara makes everything about you. You get me? So we have to say, wow, Mr. Johnson woke up today in a very bad mood, but I'm in a good mood. That means I shouldn't be affected by another person's behavior. You understand? That's the way he feels about himself. I feel fine about myself. So remember, that's something we have to be careful for, because you can't say that this person caused me to have a bad day. That's a negative thought. No, you let that energy into you. That person ruined my life. This person did that. That's blaming. That's negativity. You have to realize that the way this person behaves has nothing to do with me. He's emotionally handicapped. I can't do nothing about a person who's emotionally handicapped. Very, very important, because sometimes, unfortunately, I've heard terrible stories that there's guys that have addictions to you know what, and then the girl feels less self-esteem because the guy went with another girl. Doesn't mean you're anybody less. Just because he has an addiction problem has nothing to do with you. You shouldn't think less of yourself because this guy can't control himself. It's nothing to do with you. That's a negative thought. Oh, maybe he left me because I'm not pretty enough and the other girl is pretty. No, he can't control himself. It has nothing to do with you. Don't lose your whole self-esteem because of one person's behavior, and then all of a sudden invent that picture, and then all of a sudden you say, I'm unloved, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not good enough, and then this is how we get into destructive behaviors. It's so important in this class. This is all a form of Chometz. This is all a form of Chometz that we have to burn. You're not even allowed to have a linch of Chometz. Why you're not allowed to have a linch of Chometz? Because Chometz becomes fermented and it grows. And it takes you away from who you're supposed to be. It takes you away from your essence, and it clouds your mind with nothing more but garbage. So that's something we have to really, really work on. So, your thoughts today create your reality tomorrow. What I think about today depends on my reality tomorrow. The way I think today, whether I can or I can't, I'm right. That's going to affect the way I do. That's the effect. If I believe that I can lose weight, say my whole story in my life, I'm big boned, that's why I can't lose weight. So that's my thinking. I'm big boned, I got bad DNA, I can't lose weight, so what am I going to do? I'm not going to get on a treadmill, I'm not going to invest any time in myself because I got big bones. But if I say, that's ridiculous, what does big bone have to do with losing weight? I'm just not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. If I change my belief, then what do? I take new action. So all actions are belief driven. That means when I change my beliefs about something, then automatically my actions go. For example, if a girl says, you know what, this guy, next thing you know, that girl finds out that this guy did the same thing to 3 girls. The same thing, he left 3 girls. So she says, you know what, it has nothing to do with me. He's a player. That's why he left me, not because of me. So all of a sudden she has a new belief, I am beautiful again. Let me go on the next date. But if she doesn't change her thinking, she could have her mind full of chometz, full of anxiety, and what is she thinking tomorrow? Oh my God, I'm never going to find, I'm going to be single forever. You know how many times I hear the same thing? You know how many times I hear the same thing? It's very scary. So, change begins on the inside. Don't move to New York if you have the same mind frame as Miami. That means it's not the location, it's the mind that needs to change. Don't move here. People tell me, I want to move here. That's going to be better. First, change your mind. Then you can change your location. Changing your location with the same mind is the problem. I want a new marriage, but you're the same egotistical husband. How is that going to help you? You got the same problem. Again, we want to say, I need to change me, not the other person. So that's it. Change begins on the inside. Very, very, very important. So we're in a business that's not working. Okay. What do I need to become better? How do I become better? How do I view the situation differently? What is one thing we speak about in rehab all the time? We want to reframe everything. Put a new frame around it. Look at the situation differently. Don't attach yourself to that. Okay? Why are some people, they don't want to put an effort into this negative thinking? It's because, you know what? They don't have to take any responsibility. It's comfortable. I've thought this way for years. Now I'm going to start changing. What am I going to do now? I'm going to start thinking and now getting to my soul. So it forces you to take responsibility for your actions. So that's why a lot of people say, I'd rather just be a slave. At least in slave, remember, 80% of the Jews suffer from a slave mentality. That means you would think, when Pharaoh said, okay, everybody get out of Egypt, you think there was an immigration rush? No! 20% left. 80% rather be in their life like that. So this is something you have to attack. And it takes desire and it takes emunah. But it takes constant mindfulness all day long. But what happens is, if you're smart, you put what you want in your brain. Like you want to put in, you wake up in the morning, you want to start focusing on priming, which is a form of gratitude. You want to wake up with gratitude. You want to wake up with abundance. I tell myself every single day, every day is a brand new day in the world. The day never existed because God created the world every single day. And every single moment is different. And every single hour is different. When you live like that, you don't get stuck. But that's already a pre-programmed before. So this requires a lot of work. So again, we have to also realize another type of chometz is focusing on things we can't control. That's also not going to help you also. If I can't control something, I can't control tomorrow if I own Amazon and Trump says I don't like antitrust anymore, Amazon goes down 100 points. I can't control that. I can't control things that outside of me. I can control one thing, what I focus on. Okay? So remember, our responsibility, we have a responsibility to see what we focus on. What we focus on is so important. And we have to realize the more effort that you spend on fighting your negative thoughts is the reward that you get in heaven. Because Hashem knows you want it. He knows you want a better life. He knows you want to grow. So it's not like this is a positive energy thing. No, it's something that you're fighting against. You know why? Because guess what? When you have a bad day, do you really feel like praying? No. Do you feel like praying? Absolutely not. And we know 90% of our decisions are based on our mood. Correct? Isn't my shalom bayit dependent upon how I view the day? If I come home, I'm in a bad mood, what do you think is going to happen? Who's going to get the garbage? Your shalom bayit's based on this. Your parnas is based on this. Everything's on the line here. So if we don't interrupt these patterns, right, we get into bad situations, unfortunately. That eventually, it makes us have, you can learn Torah, but you have bad midot. A person doesn't have good midot. So in the essence that we sit there and spend time, we become better people. We become givers. So, negative thoughts may knock on the door, but you don't have to let them in. And they're going to knock on the door all the time. Reb Nachman has a famous Torah that he says the Yetzer Hara will knock on your door 3 times. As long as you fight those 3 times, the 4th one he'll leave you alone. But he will knock on your door 3 times. He'll pound you, he'll pound you, he'll pound you. This is not easy. I want to express to everybody, going on a 7-day mental diet is far from easy. You almost have to be at your Seder table like this. You have to literally catch yourself Because you already thought this about this person, you thought this about that person, that one broke the matzah last time, this one showed up late, she's staying in your house, she's taking over your whole house. All these negative thoughts are already pre-programmed in your mind from all the slaveries you've been through. You understand? So you have to literally, you want to go on this diet, you have to say, I'm not attached to anybody. I'm observing the Seder today. I'm not attaching to anybody today. So once you do this, you know what you're showing to yourself? Oh my God, I have self-control. That means I have self-control over me. The minute you have self-control, you have self-confidence, and then everything else goes on. Because why does a person give up today? Because he feels he has no self-control over himself. He can't control his thinking. He can't control anything. If he says something, he doesn't do it. So he loses self-confidence in himself. And then he becomes upset at himself. But once you show control in your life, all of a sudden that goes everywhere else. That goes everywhere else, it's a very, very powerful thing. You know what it is to have somebody scream at you and you don't respond? You know how powerful you feel? It's the most powerful thing. Don't try this at home. But with somebody, imagine a spouse screaming at you and you don't even respond back. Do you know what kind of victory you get in heaven for that? You bitzel yourself, you nullify yourself. That's a real victory. To be able to be in so much self-control that somebody can offend you and it doesn't even affect you. Then you're in a different league. Then you're in the majors. Otherwise, what are we doing? Reaction to life. We are reacting to people's problems. That means my day depends on this person's mood. If this person is in a good mood, I'm going to have a great day. If this person's not in a good mood, then I'm not going to have a good day. You think that's a way to live? Imagine living in a car as a passenger your whole life. I'm a passenger. Where do you want to go? I don't know, wherever this person goes. What kind of life is that? That's not, you're living as a passenger. You have no free will to do anything. Eventually you will get burnt out. So we want to sit there. We don't want to be passengers to life. I want to be an independent critic. I attach to what I want, and I don't attach what I don't want. Especially if the thought is not serving me. It's not serving me. So, any thought that is not constructive, if it's not serving you for the good, it's a negative thought, and it's considered, Reb Nachman, is considered Chometz. Basically, you have to put a policeman in front of your brain, and to see what you're thinking about. And you have to tell yourself all the time, I am a soul. I am not a thought. I am a soul. I said this plenty of times. I am a soul. I'm not a thought. You must say this. You have to say this 100 times to yourself. I am not a thought. I am a soul. That means I don't have to attach myself to anything. Dealing with negative people, that's another difficult thing. So the first step with dealing with negative people is, like I said again, is you have to pray for them. You have to pray for them. You can't wish them bad. Because if a person's negative, that's the way he's emotionally, or his soul's in Alcatraz. This person's soul, he's never got any kind of sustenance in his soul, he's miserable in his life, and you can't go and speak bad about him. What you should do, you should pray for him, that he should get an awakening in his life. Don't pray, because what happens, we're all responsible for another. And you know what? There's a great book here, and he says, this is from the Lubavitcher Rebbe's work, he says, according to Hasidic wisdom, even thinking possibly about another person, when a person thinks possibly about him, it can actually help him. Why? Because bringing someone to mind has an effect of arousing the person's innermost powers. When you send somebody good vibes, they can feel it. They can feel it. It's an amazing thing. But if you send the bad vibes, what happens? Also you can feel it. So if we're all in the same rope together, and your friend is digging he's digging a hole in his own boat that's going to sink you, why would you allow him to do it? You should help him. You should say, send them a good vibe. You know what I do? I send good vibes to people that I know they're a little toxic in my life, but I send them good energy, and hopefully from the good energy they'll get to it. So he says here, even when a person has even when you smile at somebody, what happens? They smile back at you. Every action has a reaction. But if you give them a look, they'll give you a look. And that's where the negativity, we don't want negativity. We want to stay away from any negativity because remember, we're getting out of Egypt. We're getting out of Egypt. So again, we have to already, like I said, we have to already plan. Don't just go in there like nothing's going to happen. No, already say, okay, I know I've had difficulty with this person's thinking. This person affects me. I've had difficulty with this situation. And also what I do in rehab, sometimes I tell people that if you're dealing with negative thoughts and they're overpowering you, you can't break it, tell them to come back later. Come back at 6 o'clock. Come back after Passover. We'll deal with you after I'm on a diet. Anytime you get a negative thought you don't like, come back after Passover. Come back. Delay your thinking. That's another tool we use in rehab. A person wants to delay. Because the more he says the same thing, delay, he won't get the same thought over and over. These are all steps we could do. So again, our job is really to reframe the situation. Reframe. For example, somebody comes in and you don't like. You just say, wow, at least he's spending the Seder with us today. He could be somewhere else. Instead of saying, look, he destroys my life. I could say, look, he's eating the Seder. He's eating his matzah today. What a nice guy. I could say whatever I want to say. But I don't want to attach myself to any kind of negativity. Okay? Again, appreciate the positive, and the positive will appreciate. When I focus on gratitude, gratitude appreciates. When I focus on the positive about people, they will also change. So we have to understand that and another tool we use is also count your blessings. I gave a great tool today in the song Dayenu. I spoke about it today. That in the Haggadah we speak about the word Dayenu. It means it's enough. That means if God just took us out of Egypt, it would have been enough. If He got us out of the Red Sea, it would have been enough. If He did this, it would have been enough. You should have in your own Seder, you should have your own Dayenu song. If you're healthy, that's enough. If you got married, that's enough. If you have kids, that's enough. So I did this today, and I got up to 70 things. So imagine you go into the Seder, and you have 70 things that you're grateful for in the Seder. How do you think your mind is positioned to? Do you have time to think about anything else? No. So when you count your blessings in life, somehow your mind is shifted towards blessings, not stressors. Remember, but I have to be on offense. I can't just play defense on my life. I have to begin the day and already show, I'm coming to the Seder today with my own list of Dayenu. I want to tell everybody. They're going to think you're an idiot, or they're going to think, what happened to this guy? I'm a new person. I'm on a diet. And go in there with the Seder, I'm making all my kids do it. You're going to come in with Dayenu, you're going to have your own Dayenu song. That means, if I just got this, it would have been enough. Because whatever we focus on, we feel. And whatever we focus on appreciates. That's the formula. And whatever we complain about, guess what? Gets worse. So it's our job really is to that. And then he says, why is it so good, this whole song? It's because once you're going to be free from this negative thinking, you know what it's going to do? You're going to be able to change the world. That means once I have my head straight, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to want to go help other people. And that's my essence of my soul. My soul gets a high from giving and growing. So the minute I get my thinking straight, I'm going to be available to be a giver. But if the minute I have the IndyCar 500 running in my head, who am I going to help? Who can I help? I can't even help myself. So it doesn't allow, if we don't stop our patterns of thinking, it doesn't allow a person to help anybody else. Because he's racing cars in his head all day long. So that's another reason. You could say to Hashem, I want to become a giver, but I can't become a giver because I have races in my head. Please help me. So again, what do we need to do practically? We need to do this diet. Why? Because we have to realize that we are a soul and all our thoughts are coming from the past and they're not true. We need to question every single thought that we don't like. Question it. Sometimes if I have a thought that I don't like, you know what I do? I write it down. This is the thought I just got. Is it true? Yes or no? No. You take it from your head to a paper. You have to name it to tame it. You have an emotion you don't like? Name it. Why am I feeling this way? Write it down. Oh, I'm feeling this way because Amazon dropped 100 points today. Okay, tomorrow will go up. There you go, the thought's different. So you have to take out of the key is not this, we don't want it here. We want it out of your head and into a paper. So we don't let it dwell on it. Specifically when I pray every morning, I get all these thoughts, I write them down. Because I don't want them in my head. If they're in my head, I can't pray. So again, may we all merit that this should be something that we should really, really, really attack. It's not something that's going to be easy, but a person should attack it. You know why? Because you're worth it. It's your whole life. Your whole life is dependent upon the way you think. So may Hashem help us that we should get out of Egypt, not be in a slave mind frame. All right, so it's nice.